Can I acknowledge the Chair of Tourism Australia, Jeff Dixon, members of the Board, CEO Andrew McAvoy, the Secretary of my department, Drew Clark, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, welcome to Canberra and welcome to our third Tourism Directors Conference. Can I also acknowledge, on behalf of all of us, the Māori Agnes, the wonderful warm welcome to the country. It was most appreciated by all of you. My friends, I think we appreciate that this conference has become the peak annual meeting of the tourism industry in Australia. In many ways, it fills a gap that had existed for a long time. It provides an opportunity for different sectors of the industry to come together to discuss key trends, challenges and opportunities in the industry. I commend all those involved in pulling together this very important focus on what is an exceptionally important part of our economy. Today I suggest is about delivering market-leading information, sector analysis and industry self-assessment. It's also about tracking our progress to help guide us as to the next steps in our partnership to implement Tourism 2020 and in doing so to grow the industry. You and I appreciate that the economic importance of the tourism industry in Australia was reinforced in the 18th century white paper of last weekend. But perhaps more importantly, this year's conference takes place against a backdrop of improving tourism indicators. The State of the Industry report, which was made available to attendees well in advance of the meeting today, revealed the Australian industry had a strong 2011-12 opportunity with 8% growth in total visitor expenditure. This was the fastest rate of growth in a financial year since 2001 and saw overall expenditure reach $95 billion. To be fair, the standout, and I'm pleased with this, was also further improvement in domestic tourism, which has been a challenge to the industry for some time. Domestic trip expenditure increased 11%, which was the fastest since the National Visitor Survey began in 1998. The report also showed we achieved a record high of 6 million international visitors in 2011-12. Much of this growth is obviously coming from the Asian market, with their visitor numbers now accounting for 42% of total arrivals. It was for this reason in June that we launched for the first time Australia's international marketing campaign, There's Nothing Like Australia Overseas, in Shanghai. I want to take this opportunity to also express my appreciation to Tourism Australia on the success of this campaign. Over the last 5 years, they have very successfully rejigged and repositioned Australia internationally in a most sophisticated way that has received tremendous support not only by Australian industry, but I'm pleased to say, from all state and territory governments, and that is no mean achievement in this industry. On that note, I suggest that the confidence the industry has shown in the leadership of Jeff and Andrew, in their efforts to sell Australia to the world on the concept of one voice, has translated into some promising figures. The State of the Industry report revealed we are on target to reach the Tourism 2020 goal of increasing overnight tourism expenditure to between $115 billion and $114 billion by 2020. Overnight visitor expenditure to date has reached $77.5 billion, which was up 8.3% on the 2009 baseline. Domestic overnight expenditure increased 12.5% since 2008-9, from $45.2 to $50.8 billion in 2011-12. Perhaps more importantly, growth is gaining momentum each year, showing an acceleration as the world slowly recovers from the global financial crisis. Domestic expenditure increased 9.1% in the year to June 2012, compared to 2.1% increase in 2009-10. With domestic tourism accounting for the majority of expenditure, and forecasts suggesting Australia's economy will remain strong in the years ahead, there I think is finally some cause for hope and optimism in this industry. Let's go to the issue of the economic environment in which we operate. I suggest that we are beginning a major restructuring of the global economy in terms of where we are as a nation on the tourism front, with a growing strength and opportunities in Asia. On that note, as Minister for Tourism, it is my responsibility working with the other 8 state and territory ministers and seeking to work in a very cooperative way to prepare the ground to help industry manage the challenges and to take advantage of opportunities that arise from Asia. I remind you that it was Kevin Rudd's decision 5 years ago to make tourism part of the cabinet opportunities of this government. He was determined to elevate tourism to the national status it deserved as one of the key drivers of our economy. From the beginning, the government was concerned with the serious issues that affected our national industry, such as labour and skill shortages, and the need to maintain quality product standards while improving our marketing performance internationally. We also wanted to secure a future market share in the emerging markets of China and India, while continuing to cultivate and give support to our traditional markets such as North America and Europe. It's not one or the other. It's about maintaining traditional market opportunities while ensuring we grow in the emerging markets. For those reasons, there has been a strong focus on product development and not just marketing, but we also have been trying to address the key supply side issues that historically perhaps not as confronted as they should have been by industry and government in the past. I believe that yes, government and industry can market Australia's beautiful landscapes, but we must also accept that it also requires decent hotels, attractions, infrastructure and services that must surpass visitor expectations and match our natural beauty. In a competitive market for tourists, Australia must build a reputation as a safe place to visit with world-class tourism products, the highest level of service, and in doing so, remain competitive. Next month, I note, will mark a year since the full launch of the landmark Tourism 2020 strategy, Australia's first truly national tourism strategy. It has involved the single biggest coordinated effort by federal, state and territory governments to target international tourism visitors. Under the Australian Tourism Investment Attraction Program, my department, led by Tourism Australia, for the first time ever is working in partnership with Austrade, so as to ensure that we work countrywide to market the industry as an attractive investment in terms of overseas investors. Speaking with one voice under the leadership of Tourism Australia has enabled funding for this purpose to be directed to international markets in a coordinated fashion. The Australian Government has also backed this financially with an additional $48.5 million into the new Asian Marketing Fund. Through this collaboration, we have identified about 80 investment-ready and proposed investment opportunities around Australia that show that there is potentially $42 billion worth of projects in the tourism investment pipeline. And I must say, from the tourism investment meetings I've done overseas in the last 6 months, there is considerable interest in Australia. It is now our responsibility to nail down some of those investment opportunities. Tourism 2020 has also provided a range of new programs and tools to help build industry capacity, innovation and overall quality. During the year, the government announced funding for a further 77 projects under the $40 million TQual program, and I might say 6 TQual strategic tourism investment grants to demonstrate the best of what industry has to offer. Our focus on quality is also highlighted by the launch of Australia's first national accreditation scheme, the TQual TIC last December, something the industry has sought for over a decade. I've invited Simon Curran, the current chair, to continue for a further 12 months, so as to ensure we have some continuity in developing the TQual program and ensuring we have strong leadership. But I've also tasked the Council to develop by May of next year for the next Tourism Ministerial Council a plan to increase membership and ensure the TQual TIC becomes self-funding and therefore a permanent sustainable part of the industry with a key focus on improving the quality of our product. I also recently announced details of the $48.5 million Tourism Industry Regional Development Fund, which aimed at helping fund new programs in regional Australia and drive increased visitation. I stressed that a major focus will be on improving the quality of accommodation and attractions, so that tourism facilities match the beauty of Australia's regions. Tourism operators outside Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne metropolitan areas are eligible to apply for grants up until the 14th of December to a maximum potential grant of $250,000 a dollar, potentially, therefore, an investment of $500,000 in individual projects in regional Australia. I now turn to the importance of the Asian Century White Paper. This room understands that Tourism 2020 has an exceptionally strong focus on growing the number of visitors from Asia in particular. It is estimated that visitors from this region will generate close to $19 billion a year by 2020, driven obviously mainly by China as its middle class develops with industrialisation and urbanisation. However, the expected boom in Asian visitors should not be seen as a given, as there are many other countries, including the United States, now competing for their tourism dollars in this key market. The government has therefore implemented a range of initiatives, such as upgrades to the approved destination scheme, and the $600,000 Welcoming Chinese Visitors Strategic Tourism Investment Grant, which provides training and support the business to improve their readiness for Chinese customers. We've also interestingly given $1 million to the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse to translate information on accommodation, product and experience into Mandarin, and to fund Tourism Australia's requirement to develop a China-based website. Clearly, it's about making sure we do our best in China to best position Australia, and especially business, to grab these opportunities. Industry's involvement is therefore required if these programs are to work to their greatest benefit. The challenge is also to develop and implement new products and services to ensure Australian visitors have a good quality, safe and enjoyable experience. The government therefore recognises that the tourism experience starts long before arrival at a destination. On this note, I'm therefore pleased to announce today that we will be rolling out online visitor visas to all countries, including China in 2013 and 2014. That is something industry wanted, and I'm pleased to say that Chris Bowen, who will be addressing this conference later on, a major supporter of the importance of the tourism industry, will further outline details of this enhancement of our visa program when he addresses you this morning. This in turn also takes me to the issue of skills and labour. Tourism 2020 has also made a major commitment to increasing the supply of labour, skills and Indigenous participation in tourism through a range of programs. These hopefully will help business fill an estimated 36,000 vacancies industry-wide. The government has made commitments in relation to the industry's needs with respect to skills and labour, such as the budget announcement of $8.2 million for the Tourism Hospitality Skills and Workforce Development Project. Accommodation providers in many areas are also benefiting from the seasonal worker program, which has been trialled for 3 years. This program brings in labour from Pacific Island countries and East Timor to assist industry in meeting their low-skilled seasonal labour requirements. It can be accessed for accommodation providers across the Northern Territory, tropical North Queensland, with Sundays, Broome and Kangaroo Islands. But I want to stress this. There's no use government bringing in these initiatives if industry doesn't seize the opportunity and use them to their advantage. I'm therefore calling on industry to make sure that these initiatives, which were introduced on the 1st of July of this year, are embraced, and in doing so, assist yourselves in overcoming some of your shortages of labour, especially in the remote areas where tourism is of a seasonal nature. Tourism 2020 also contains a number of efforts targeting increasing employment of Indigenous people in particular. And I'm pleased to see significant progress in a range of areas with respect to commitment by industry to the training and employment of Indigenous workers. On that note, I announced today that the Australian Tourism Export Council Chair, John King, who's had a long-term commitment to Indigenous employment and training and the development of Indigenous product, was recently appointed as Australia's Indigenous tourism business leader. He has been tasked with increasing engagement between Indigenous people and tourism businesses to identify and develop employment and career development outcomes. This includes nationally promoting improved communication between the private accommodation sector and Indigenous training and employment initiatives. John will also work with industry representatives such as the Accommodation Association of Australia to implement strategies to support Indigenous engagement. He will work to identify opportunities for Indigenous employment arising from tourism employment plans and the National Workforce Development Fund. I ask that industry embrace John and work with him on achieving positive and lasting results in the years ahead. It is a key opportunity to assist the community in overcoming some of the social challenges that confront all of us, and in doing so, overcoming some of our shortage with respect to access of trained labour. In addition to skills and labour shortages, I acknowledge that the slow pace of navigating the regulatory environment for new investment often frustrates industry members. There's no use us working with Australia internationally to attract investors if we do not go out of our way to facilitate environment and regulatory approvals to make it easier to invest in Australia. For those reasons, states and territories are working cooperatively with the Commonwealth to address planning and investment barriers across the country. We are now working to cut unnecessary red tape to make it easier to do business in Australia from a tourism potential. This includes the Historic Council of Australian Government's agreement to minimise duplication in environmental assessment processes, whilst maintaining high standards of environmental management. It will increase opportunities for unique world-class tourism development in areas of high natural amenity, including national parks, something the industry has sought for many, many years. On this note, I look forward to releasing a report card with respect to progress on regulatory reform by the 23rd of November, as agreed by the Tourism Ministerial Council in Brisbane just 2 weeks ago. This is about putting further pressure on government to make sure that having identified our strengths and weaknesses, we then go out of our way to make further improvements on the regulatory reform front, and in doing so deliver real outcomes with significant investment opportunities in Australia. That's about the tourism industry becoming a national investment priority as detailed in the 18th Century White Paper, with all levels of government providing investment facilitation services and Australia actively marketing opportunities globally and domestically. In accord with that, I announce today a valuable new service that will help investors in major tourism projects save time and money. The Tourism Major Project Facilitation Service will provide an additional level of support to the front-end investment attractions in terms of the work of Australia and Tourism Australia. In many ways, my office and department have been doing this, but it's now been endorsed by the Tourism Ministerial Council, and my department will become responsible for administering the service, offering a single point of contact for proponents with projects worth more than 50 million. It is no different to what I do on a regular basis with LNG projects and mining projects in Australia, trying to pick up these key projects, work with state and territory governments, and in doing so, deliver new investment to tourism product in Australia. It's about ensuring tourism projects that require approvals from Commonwealth and state government bodies can access an integrated investment facilitation service to streamline processes and in doing so reduce costs and minimise delays, something the industry has demanded for years and years. The new service, I believe, is another example of how tourism ministers across the country are appropriately working together, in essence further developing the concept that Jeff and Andrew have pushed for some months now. It's about the industry speaking with one voice and working together both domestically and internationally. Ladies and gentlemen, can I say in conclusion, I think we are making progress under Tourism 2020. It's about turning ideas into constructive outcomes. I'm confident it's helping to create the right conditions to support business now and perhaps more importantly, well into the future. I reiterate my message from last year, that governments can only do so much. It is ultimately up to you as practical business people to take advantage of the opportunities that we are seeking to create. I encourage you to make the most of the government programs being rolled out or across a range of portfolios in the coming months. I also encourage you to use the work of Tourism Research Australia and Tourism Australia's promotional campaigns to your advantage. It's our responsibility at a Tourism Ministerial Council to work cooperatively and in doing so help industry achieve its potential. This very conference I suggest in conclusion is part of that objective because it gives you the tools you need to seek to improve your industry and influence research and policy for your industry in the future. Thank you for the opportunity, and can I say, please make sure that you feel free to contribute your ideas and criticism, because there's room for further improvement both at government and at industry level, and that's what this conference is about. Constructive engagement, and in doing so we work away with a further work plan for the next 12 months. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this morning.